Hey,
Yeah, and on to the hump.
what's going on, everybody? This
what y'all don't know is our second take.
You weren't supposed to tell people that. All right, so welcome to the Education X Show,
That's
where
right.
we discuss and dissect
all the obscure topics about education from educators for educators.
Education X.
All
We
of
do our
y'all.
X today.
That's right.
Education X.
And who are educators? Anyone and everyone who stands in front of young people.
Anyone who is a sage on the stage.
That's right. And matter of fact, they come in all shapes and sizes and backgrounds. So parents, you're educators.
Absolutely.
Sunday school teachers, Boys and Girls Club workers. And right off the bat, people think education has only to do with schools. Okay, but let's face it, secretaries, all the way to custodians, nurses, counselors, even parent volunteers. You are an educator because, as you said, you are on stage performing for those young people.
Right.
Some people may call it role modeling, call it what you will, but they are watching you.
Yes.
Private eyes, they're watching you, watching your every move. Private eyes, they're watching you.
You talk about dating yourself.
Private eyes. Moving on. So
quickly.
So
right,
our topic today comes with this is a little bit of a special show. We still gonna have fun with it, but we're gonna talk about some real serious things. And the topic of this one is that's right. Yeah, whatever that's worth. So this is from Phobias to Utopias and landing somewhere in between. Now we all know what phobias are. Some of us may not know what utopia, but basically it's how do you find the middle ground between your fear and your most happy place? As an educator, remember, we just decided on who are educators. So that means parents may have some fears in front of young people. Their first year, as well as that veteran, 10, 20-year educator may have a fear that they haven't addressed. They haven't done a healthy job about dealing with it. And there are many triggers out there that could pop up and bring up that fear and what the body, how the body responds to it. So we're gonna talk about some of that stuff. But of course, first we're gonna get to some of our plugs, tugs, and hugs. So we are plugging, go ahead and show it off.
We are plugging
the personality crafting jewelry shop bracelets, personalized bracelets from this one right here, right? So go to Etsy.com and you can look up personality crafting.
All one word.
All one word. You can find her shop where she can customize and personalize any type of bracelet that you want. That's right.
Men and women,
That's
girls
right.
and boys,
and
organizations, schools.
And what we found is she does a lot more for unisex and men's fashion than a lot of other places that are out there. Not taking anything from anybody else, but go do that. So and
Thanks for the plug.
Right, and we definitely do like groups.
Yes.
Your sororities and fraternities, and you got colors that attach to your affiliation.
Right.
So we also we got a little tug on the coattail of those and other occupations that think educators have it easy, and we should stop complaining.
Look here.
Like, y'all don't have no fears. Like, get out of here.
In the words of Tamar Braxton, get your life.
That's right.
Because
all
educators,
your life. Every ounce of it. Yes.
This is a tough job.
Yes.
It is for the brave. It is a tough job.
That's right. But it is very rewarding if you go about it the right way. That's what we're here to do.
Very true.
And we're giving the hugs to those within the field who devote more than enough energy to paying forward all the tricks of the trade that they learn of overcoming those certain fears. We're going to talk about some ways to deal with them. Some of the ones that you probably did not think that they were attached to educators. Like, oh no. I mean, I think we had one show talking about PTSD in the education field.
Right, yeah. That's a real thing.
That's a real thing. But just because it is a phobia, a lot of people attach it to big time or more common phobias that make people freak out or something like that. We all have our way of dealing with it, coping mechanisms, survival tactics. But more than anything, there are fears that we have as people that is so strong within us. It's buried in our subconscious that we don't even know the triggers for it. And when we do see it, we revert back to something that is primal or innate.
Right.
And it does not always work out to be a healthy way, especially in front of young people. Remember, they got their eyes on you. So, yeah.
This is what they doing constantly.
Right.
Binoculars, constantly.
So, let's throw some questions out there just to get it started. And by the way, we appreciate everybody still looking out for us, especially on YouTube. We will be start moving more of our stuff. I think by next week we was gonna start just straight doing YouTube live.
At this point,
it just helps us archive some of our shows and keep up with some more analytics. Exactly. Nothing against Facebook, but so all the Facebook followers, please go to YouTube, our YouTube page, and subscribe.
Just subscribe.
Right. So, how can some phobias affect some educators? So we're gonna get back to some of the ones that we think show up in all of our combined years of education, administration, and leadership.
Especially when you haven't sourced some of that.
Yes.
We'll get into that.
How does a novice educator cope with their early fears? First time in the classroom, I know I had mine. And
that's scary.
Take it from me as a black male, people automatically think one of the perceptions that come along with it, you can handle it, you be okay, especially in an urban school environment. Man, when I stood up and looked at all those 6th graders, my heart jumped out my chest and sat in one of the seats and looked back at me too, like, you on your own, pal.
Man, that's a hard. That first day that's a rough place.
Do you think there are healthy coping skills to handle the fear that comes with time? So in other words, do you think, it's just your first, second year, over time you'll get better at it? There are a lot of people who don't. They are still just as fearful of failing, of things not working out their way, not having support, or not thinking they actually do have support. They want things to go so smooth. I mean, you'll be surprised how many people think, just with time, I'll be fine.
I would even say some of the coping mechanisms are more detrimental to the students and to the teachers.
Yes, especially if you don't think you need to practice in the off season, if you will. Like soon as some of the educators that I know, they are running for the doors at summertime faster than the students. It's true. So, how does one raise their acumen on anticipating fear, the outcome of a situation, and the method of surviving it? Like, how do you just get better at, is this something I should be fearful of? No, because I've been here before and I know the outcome of this. Or, you know what, this will be okay, I can handle it, it's all right, I don't need to, ask for help from an administrator, fellow teacher. Like, how do you think you get better at just becoming a part of something that has fear for some, not for others? Or do you just feel like what a lot of teachers educators do, they just get out. They just get out. I don't know how many times we've been told from teachers, especially novice teachers that we've helped train and coach, and say, oh man, you need to come to my school. 2 teachers just walked out at 9:30, dropped their keys off at the principal's desk, like, I'm out. I cannot do it.
I'm done. I can't handle the class.
And that's real.
There's stories about that. Up in somewhere in Pennsylvania last year, the year before, there was.
Yeah, we talked about it before.
Yeah, 1st grade to 2nd grade. Completely ran a bunch of teachers out of the school. I mean, this stuff happens.
In fact, you even told me about, I think it was last week's show. You talked about the young lady who is down, I think, in Houston, who is now doing very well.
In Texas.
Oh,
Not Houston,
Texas.
but-
Oh well, yeah, she's in Texas. But
yes, doing quite well.
and she was
Exceptionally well.
She was one of those ones that was like the fourth teacher in like 2 months that was able to hang on. And again, you know, and this is something that it is bad with us as educators. You get set up by somebody in the building already, or you're a third grade teacher and the second grade teacher send you up. Oh, you need to be fearful of this one, that one.
Mm-hmm.
And now that fear is starting to build up. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a healthy coping mechanism or to know how to decipher, why are you telling me this about this group of students or this certain demographic of students? That happens more often than we like. That leads me into a really good question. Where does mentorship and or leadership play its part in helping an educator address their fears? You cannot be
great question.
and scared of certain situations that when your teachers come to you, I'm not gonna say that you need to have a handle, a rock solid handle on each and everything that may happen, because there is expected climate change as well as unexpected climate change. But they cannot come to you and you just deal with it. I've earned the perks and leadership of, pushing it back off on you, tell you to go and talk to your mentor, and then I leave at 3:29.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be able to handle calming yourself. I mean, we'll go through maybe some strategies, but you got to check your emotions. Check your emotionality as the leader first, because your team is going to be looking for you to make some decisions that are not based in your emotions, or based upon your emotions.
So
solely.
Right. So we've done a little bit of research, not too extensively, but on some of the things that, and when we talk about phobias, let's just clear some of this as we go forward. We all know phobias to be just a fear. The level or the heightened intensity of the fear varies from person to person. So we're not talking about, in order to have a phobia, it's got to be this bad. You got to have the sweats and all this anxiety and stuff. We all have our ways of expressing and how it manifests into something. But the bottom line is, we've talked about some of the things that we've seen in all of our walks of life as educators, especially in leadership and administration, that goes, we don't need to work on that. So let's talk something out here. And if we struggle with the pronunciation, shut up.
Which is inevitable.
Right. Now, first of all, phobophobia is just the fear of fears.
Man, that's got to be rough.
Again, going back to just the fear itself and how some...
How you exist, man? That's hard. That's
some
rough.
people just...
Man, I can't imagine.
They're
That's rough.
scared of being scared. So, and if they end up in education, it's like...
This is not the field for you.
Exactly.
No diss to anybody, but no.
Yeah. Glossophobia is the fear of public speaking. Now, of course, many, I'm pretty sure by now, a lot of colleges, you have to take the Comms 101 and Intro to Communications to get you better at public speaking. If you stumble through a class like that and you stay away from any and all things like that, like many classes now you have to present something, video record or whatever, but you're on stage, you are performing for your young people every day.
You need to constantly practice.
That's right.
If that is a fear, what is it? The exposure.
That's right.
Exposure therapy, maybe to some degree. And look, let me just give this disclaimer.
So go over the two things about how to deal with certain phobias, or at least a ground level way.
One is the exposure therapy, and this is something that we've read in research. Let me make the disclaimer: we are not neuroscientists
At all.
We are not therapists. We're taking what we've read from research because that's what we do. So one is the exposure therapy. So if that is your fear being on stage, then you need to be on stage as much as possible to try to face that fear. And the other thing is, which is what we do, what we are really good at, is the personality mining, so you can source perhaps some of that fear and figure out where it originated, and what you're going to do to make some changes or to leverage the fear.
And in fact, you might even want to say a combination of the two can be the most one of the more healthier ways of dealing with it. It will take time. It is not an overnight fix. So some of you future teachers, you might want to get started when you get into a college of education or what have you. Definitely if you are somewhere in student teaching. Bottom line is, if you source down to the subconscious of you that says, where's this fear really coming from? I use this example all the time. If you had a very traumatic set of years in middle school, and now you are teaching middle school, you're gonna face a lot of triggers. Now, dealing with them may come into to play as far as referrals. Those students, those type of students who probably bullied you, or were the in crowd, whatever the case may be, you may use your power to avoid that. So you have to face that fear. But that won't last. That's not a healthy way. So if you need to source down to figure out where this fear really comes from, your subconscious, and then use that information to face that, that is when mentorship and leadership really pays off. You may not need, a lot of times what we both found in some of the success of the educators we coach, it doesn't even have to happen in a school setting. Like, you may have to really practice it in your personal life.
Right.
So that it comes off organic and genuine.
Right. And it might be that if you're practicing it in your personal life, maybe you won't have such apprehension.
Right.
Because these are hopefully people, I don't know, who will help you through that process, who might support you
with
through
good
that
intentions,
process.
right. They got good intentions.
Right.
So here's one that we see a lot. It's a shame that it's a phobia. Phronemophobia, the fear of thinking. Let me say that again. Let me get close to y'all. Phronemophobia, the fear of thinking. I'll say this a lot. There have been scientific research, I don't know how much, on the more intelligent people have more wrinkles on their brain. So how smooth is your brain? Because you are probably suffering from phronemophobia, fear of thinking and creating new wrinkles.
Look, and quite frankly, teachers should have the most wrinkles.
You make
constantly
over 1,500 decisions on your feet.
Look, your brain should just...
We do more thinking before 9 a.m. than many people do all day.
Wrinkled up.
Watch your mouth.
You should just have a wrinkled up brain.
Here's one that I have personally dealt with, not only myself, but a lot of teachers, especially in certain situations. Nemophobia, the fear of memories. So they're attached to phronemophobia. So if you got a suppressed memory and something like that shows up in your classroom, by way of a parent, by way of a coworker, and I had to really coach one teacher who just had the hardest time making phone calls. And when I really was able to create some comfort with her, she, just pretty much laid out how she had one bad phone call in the early part, like a second year. And just, now it's not like she didn't make phone calls, but any anticipation of something that was potentially bad freaked her out. So I had to sit with her a lot of times, not make a sound, but just have some comfort there for her she got beyond it, and she eventually did.
That's what the research that I read talks about, the idea of the process of potentiation. So the fear already exists. And then some new experience or whatever is added to that, and it amplifies the fear. That's that state of fear. You're already primed for it because you had that phobia. Right.
So here's another one. Scopophobia, the fear of being seen or stared at. So, and I have physically felt this, where you've been in the classroom and Like you done something wrong on the board, you had the wrong page of your book, the principal has been walking in and been low-key observing you or something, or amazingly one time I got caught talking about a student like real bad, and the student wasn't there, and the principal just had to come up and say, let me talk to you for a second. And I walked out, and again, my heart jumped out my body and just said, you on your own. Not gonna help you. So that's one of the things that I take personally, that I say, okay, I'm gonna fight through and make sure I don't have to deal with this again. Are you standing around?
This is what we do, people.
I bare my soul to you. What you doing?
I was listening to your story. Are you going through potentiation?
I don't know what. Don't stab me like that again. Anyway, so getting back to how most people, if not all people, should deal with some of the phobias they may have within them. There are 4 things that are considered results of a fear that you have not addressed or you have not dealt with in a healthy manner. And it's either freeze, fight, flight, or fright. Now, if you look and say those 4 again, freeze, meaning you just, you're in a state of panic and you don't move.
Yeah.
You fight, and that doesn't necessarily mean physically all the time. It means you fight your way through, which means you definitely cannot suffer from, from nemophobia, fear of thinking. Because you got to think your way through, fighting your way through, like a curriculum buster, a bad lesson plan, something goes wrong. A bee is in your classroom. And I've seen teachers freak out, run out the room. And the kids are like, hey, it's a bee, it's a bee, it's a bee. And So, okay. So flight is what happens when I'm gone. I'm out of here. And mind you, there are certain situations that can happen in isolation, but then there are others where on a consistent basis, you're constantly fleeing. And then fright. I would look at fright as meaning similar to freeze, that you just don't know what to do. But the fright could be what you call a potentiation, where I see something coming. I didn't handle it well before. I really don't want to face the fear of failure of trying what you sort of given me as an option. So I have fright, such as there are some teachers who have fright about the month of February, having to deal with Black History Month and all the things that come with it.
That's true.
And all the information that be thrown at some teachers. Why don't we talk about this person? We have some parents that come up and they're like, hey, what are you doing? Man, they want some snow days and everything. They don't want to participate in Black History Month ceremonies. That fright is anticipated.
And part of that is because maybe they just don't have enough knowledge about whatever topic that maybe the students bring to them, or whatever the initiative or the project that the school is trying to move towards. So it might just be that they just don't have enough information. Therefore, you have to be knowledgeable and you have to constantly keep thinking. And don't be afraid to ask your students.
Right.
It's okay.
You'll be surprised.
It's absolutely okay. I think one of the things that's really interesting when it comes to like the idea of fear and the phobias is the fact that there are cultural norms, right? So culture can help normalize some of our fears about groups of people or social groups or a person or characteristics of a person, and that is not healthy. So again, it goes back to something we talk about all the time. You got to get to know the person behind all of their various identities. Cultural humility. And
that not only does it take time, but you also got to check yourself. Going back to something you mentioned before, we use depth anchor a lot, and I think we've talked about it on our show before. DEPTH: disperse, emotion, proximity, tone, and help. It is a packaged strategy, if you will, of a handful of those techniques, those 5 things that I mentioned, that they don't necessarily have to be used in succession. It is a pendulum, but those are the 5 things that I often help coach teachers and educators if they seem to be having a rough time with some fears, especially if, going back to the cultural norms, if you're having some real fears and it's starting to show up, especially with data, and which is going to affect student achievement. If it's starting to show up with certain demographics, certain age groups, even if you're having certain situations with parents, if you're having certain fears that pop up with your colleagues, and trust me, is not always novice teachers, the ones that we help coach and train. So I often point to, okay, how are you dealing with these 5? How are you dealing with dispersing the group of students, even if it does end up being on the playground during recess?
Yeah.
And you're finding that you're often having issues with that. Well, probably if I'm finding that this person's having some personal fears, emotions, what do you do? What type of self-talk or coaching do you tell yourself to deal with your own emotions?
Right.
So that the smallest thing, a diversion a lot of times for young people, doesn't trigger you. Proximity. How do you put yourself in situations? Now, if you've got fears and you want to avoid the back of your classroom, if you want to avoid the locker room, the bathroom, or the lunchroom when they roasting on each other, and you like, oh man, they're gonna talk about my toupee, or they're gonna talk about my weight. I'm telling you,
it's so true.
I have had adults in my office shedding tears over, I just don't want to do lunch duty anymore. And I'm like, instead of me grilling them on it, I'm like, I can see where that's coming from. So proximity is the issue. I don't want to stand or go nearby those type of students. I even had one teacher admit to me, the cool, and they actually, I'm going to use their air quotes, the cool kids. Can you do something about them? I'm like, I don't have a problem with them. But I started to source down to this person's, subconscious fear. Tone. Tone is something you need to be working on from day one so that it doesn't turn into volume. Tone is very intentional. It is impactful and meaningful. That, excuse me, 7th graders versus 7th graders, I'm so tired of you talking to their homies. That's no.
And
that's
quite
not a
frankly,
good tone.
a lot of your kids have probably already heard that volume.
Yep.
They are not going to respond
and they are
to that.
tuned out. And then the
Credible versus invitation.
Exactly. And the last one is called help. Because sometimes
don't be afraid. The fear, don't be afraid to call for help if you need it.
Now don't wear it out. But help.
Help. Call buttons. Tell somebody to go get somebody. Whatever you got to do, get the help if you need it.
Exactly.
Now don't act like, you getting ready to just take everybody down. That's insane.
Right.
No, you don't need to do that. But if you need the help, get the help. And help might not come from somebody within the building. It might come from parents or grandmama, meemaw, pawpaw, auntie, uncle, whoever.
Again, going back to one of our questions in the beginning. What are you really doing? Because it's going to be ongoing. We often talk about, we just had a great time in Oakland, Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, where we had some great conversations and work labs with some students and faculty members. And this sort of came up, this sort of inspired this show about how, emphasis on how, and I think that's where we believe the revolution of education is headed. The how. We've got a lot of the what, and we sort of running out of the who, but it's the how do we deal? How do we get better? How do we improve? And a lot of that is attached to patience. Time. If it's all about relationships, like we know it to be, like the data is showing up, then it takes time. There are no microwave relationships that are sustainable and long lasting. Yeah, they exist
on reality TV.
Yeah, but you know how those turn up. So the time that we remove from it is, I think, what is causing a lot of strife where some people go, we believe it. Yeah, what you talking about, cultural humility and civility? Yeah, that's right, that's right. How do I do it where this group of people recognizes me not to be a racist and say, okay, the amount of time you think that they think you are one, double that. And that's the least amount of time it's going to take.
It's just going to take time. So, can I give a couple more phobias?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, here's one that I thought was quite interesting. Spectrophobia. Spectrophobia. So a fear of one's own reflection. So I immediately took that to recognizing and understanding who you are behind your own identities and your own biases and bias boundaries and values and belief systems that someone has given you, or that might be a part of your micro ecosystem or whatever. So what is it that you're reflecting in the mirror that you're afraid of?
Right.
That you're afraid to see, that you're afraid to put out there in the world. Because guess what? It's coming in the classroom with you anyway.
Yourself.
So you might as well deal with it.
Yourself.
So I thought that was even though that's not exactly what the fear is about, some of it has to do with if you've had a traumatic incident with, something, a reflection in the mirror or whatever. But I immediately thought about that. Mm-hmm. And the other one is, okay, let me see if I can get this right. Allodoxophobia. Is that right? Allodoxophobia, I think.
I'll buy.
So this is a fear of opinions. So you are afraid to make an opinion, have an opinion, share your opinion. And I don't think it's the opposite. I think it's more of you are afraid to share your opinions because your opinions in certain situations have been rejected. And I want to say, I think a lot of people, maybe on a mild level, probably have a little bit of this. Like you don't want to speak up, you don't want to talk, you don't want to share your ideas because you're afraid.
I tell you my coping mechanism right now. I'll say my opinion and somebody come back with a rebuttal, maybe they get a little hot, a little heated, and I go, okay. And that shuts that down because
what's the emoji?
Right. Because far be it from me to express an opinion, knowing it's an opinion, knowing the other person expressing one, and think, okay, we have just opened the door for some uncivil discourse. And, debate team or not, I gotta win, I gotta outdo or out loud or out. No, we expressing opinions, right? I say Michael Jordan, you say LeBron James. All right.
and
the magic of that. Well, I'm saying. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You got a point. Okay.
I heard you.
Yeah. You said your opinion, I said mine.
We done?
And then you people get stuck.
Well, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And imagine that in a classroom setting or in whatever type of setting as an educator where, all right, you duly noted. You said your piece. I'm thank you for sharing.
Right.
And then we moving on.
The other part of it is that it can be a fear of confrontation. Now, we talk a lot about.
Well, I'm not a confrontational person, Grace.
Exactly. And
so
what is confrontation?
Confrontation is nothing more, at its core, but a face-to-face for the truth. She's staring at me again. Don't you be staring at me.
Face-to-face for the truth.
Right. That's all we doing.
It is. Mm-hmm. So try to get through your allodoxophobia. I'm going to use that. I got a couple situations coming up where I can use allodoxophobia.
You got to use it 3 times on the word.
Allodoxophobia. And I'm going to say it like it's been a part of my lexicon.
Times, you might go jump out the mirror.
We're going to have spectrophobia.
Hey, right.
All right. So, let's see. What else we want to talk about when it comes to this? We talked about the normalizing of the fear in the cultural aspects. So we did talk a little bit about that. The other part of that is the lack of fear may be a sign of brain damage.
Right.
So, when we were kind of talking about this in prep for the show, we talked about it in terms of students who might be experiencing a lot of trauma in their families or in their communities.
Desensitized,
right, and they become desensitized to some of the things, the external stuff that might be happening in
especially
their,
at a young age. The overwhelming assumption that little black and brown boys are too hard or they can get past just about anything. I don't know how many times in middle school, some 12, 13-year-old guys that were bigger than me that were crying while they were making threats to the other dude. I swear to God, dude! I swear to God, you better get him, I'm gonna kill you! And I'm thinking, there's a reason for that. Right. Now, I did not embarrass or heighten the situation with more intensity by even bringing any type of light to his tears, or by trying to out-talk or out-masculine him. But those were signs of, like, you're blowing up for a reason. You've been suppressing some stuff for a while.
And I ain't gonna say what we've just seen. I'm sorry, I gotta keep saying it because at this point, come on, y'all.
What?
Well, somebody has been, like, enraged. Enraged. I'm sorry. It's just what it is.
I wish. If you can't pick up on that, then you shouldn't be.
Right. I like lots of phobia.
Is this camera on me? Is this camera on me right here? Is this the one?
Are you having, what is this? The spectral, what is the one?
What?
Fear of people staring. What is it called?
Scopophobia.
Scopophobia.
Right.
So scopophobia and then spectrodocophobia, whatever it is. What is the name? What is it called?
Type.
Wait, I'm going to get it right. Spectrophobia. Imagine if you had both of those. Dang.
Well, one could lead it to another.
Dang.
So, yeah.
Dang. Yeah. So, let's see. I think we kind of covered all of the major pieces when it comes.
And this may be one that we have to get back to at some point in the very near future. More comments you send in. Everybody out there in Education X Show world, comment. Send in some topics that maybe needs to get talked about or what have you. And we'd be more than willing to address it the best way that we can.
Yeah.
Again,
absolutely.
we're not therapists, neuroscientists, anything, but we just real good at what we do. And what do we do? We discuss and dissect a lot of obscure topics. Why are they obscure? Because people assume, educators, you already got it good. You got all your holidays off, snow days, summers for some people in some districts, yada, yada, yada. Y'all got the rest of the day when y'all get out. And
we need every bit of that.
No way, shape, or form is payment for what I think more than anything, what we have to deal with ourselves internally.
Right.
Knocking down all these phobias, standing up for what's righteous, even though it may not be popular, and be able to balance that off in our own personal life.
Right.
Now, I'm a single dude, but I'm a family of one, and it matters. So when people think, oh man, well, you don't got to worry about it, you don't have any kids, and no, don't do that. I'm a family of one.
I still got to take care of me.
That's right.
I'm still here until I'm not here, and I got to take care of me too. So that is important. So exposure therapy, personality mining, talk to us about that if you're interested in that, digging down into, figuring out what it is and how do you deal with it, maybe some of the origins. It is
unlike any other personality assessment, and we got the data to prove it.
Exactly. So that's the Education X Show for today. Thank you guys for watching. As always, we love you. Thank you for the support. Make sure you go check out Personality Crafting on Etsy. And we'll see y'all next time.
Deuces.